He is risen.
He is risen indeed. Hallelujah.
Isn't it strange how it's kind of hard to be the first one to say that in a conversation? Like in theory, every person that you meet today, the tradition is, the first thing you would say to them is, He is risen. Whether they're a Christian or not. Because that's what it is to confess the gospel. That's what it is to be a Christian. To believe that, whether you believe it or not, Jesus Christ is risen from the dead. We crucified this guy from Nazareth, killed him brutally. And he refused to stay dead. That means something. I guess it could be a lie, it could be untrue. We do live in an age that strangely wants to think it doesn't believe in miracles. Although in my experience, generally it just doesn't want to believe in the miracles the Bible talks about. I'm a big fan of a guy named Tim Ferriss. He is an entrepreneur and thinker, has a podcast listened to by millions. He is an influencer for men my age, late 30s, early 40s. Massively influential. It's been interesting to watch him in the last year and a half struggling with the pain of his childhood and letting go of it, and the pain of seeing the death of some friends, move his way closer and closer to Buddhism. And as he has done so, he has always said, I'm not into the woo-woo. I don't want the weird stuff. I just want to learn how to control my mind and my body. And yet the most recent episode, he was talking to a Zen master, a practitioner of Buddhism, who was telling him about out-of-body experiences and walking around a room while looking at yourself and being visited by heavenly beings. And never once did he say, that's not possible. It's crazy what we'll believe. We'll believe that if we get the right oils into our food and onto our bodies, we'll live forever. We'll believe that a doctor can keep a heart beating well beyond the time of the body itself no longer needing the blood. We'll look anywhere for a miracle. And yet this most public of all miracles not only is something that no one wants to believe in, but even we Christians have become so silenced, so shamed by the world around us that we're afraid to say something about it. So that I, as a pastor, walking in this morning, had to force myself to say, He is risen. It's the right thing to say. Do it. Say it. You're the pastor. You got to say it. So I got to know, I got to believe you have the same feelings. You have the same trouble, the same trial. Now the good news in all of this is that all it does is demonstrate why we needed to be saved in the first place. Because we don't believe in the true God. We don't know who He is or understand why He does what He does. And even though we deserved fully, for that unbelief, that rebellion, to be wiped away in a snap, in a pinch, burned, finished, done, the same way you throw out the trash, He didn't do that. But instead, He joined with us to fix it. Did you notice that line from the introit, appointed for today? It's the strangest thing. I will sing to the Lord, for He has triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider He has thrown into the sea. What on earth does that have to do with Easter? Where's the horses, people? I don't see any. Bunnies, eggs, sure, no horses, right? What this is a quote from the Song of Miriam and the Song of Moses that is sung on the far side of the Red Sea, in that grand Exodus event where the people of Israel, brought by God's mighty hand, working very real miracles, are pulled from the tyranny and oppression of the great ancient Egypt, one of the most massive superpowers there ever was. They're pulled out from there and taken across this sea, this massive expanse of water, on dry ground. Now, of course, no one believes that today either, right? I do. They're taken across on dry ground, and as they go across, they're terrified because they're being chased by the troops of Pharaoh. Remember, Pharaoh does not want to let this people go. And it really isn't about keeping the slaves. It's actually about believing that he's God. Because in the Egyptian pantheon, all the gods run to and serve Ra, who is one with Pharaoh. As those 10 plagues are taking place in the book of Exodus, by the way, Yahweh the Lord is one by one smashing down the actual gods of Egypt. Remember how in ancient paganism, gods are represented by animals. And so, gnats and frogs and cows, one by one, Yahweh the Lord demonstrates they got nothing on me. All the way up to Pharaoh himself. Pharaoh's own son, the Son of God, who on the night of the Passover, not covered by the blood of the Lamb, is struck down, that the people would be set free. In that fight, Pharaoh is spiritually unwilling to believe that he is not as divine as he thinks he is. And this is the common problem of all humanity. So even after, in great despair, he says, "Go, get these people out of here. I don't want your petty God anymore. Get out of my face." Even after that, when he watches them go, his pride comes back. And he remembers how much he wants to win. He takes all his troops and he chases after them and he catches them right there at the sea as they're going across. And look, they're having no trouble. And so in they go, chariots and all. And at that very moment, the sand gets wet. And the water starts to spill in. And Moses is holding up his staff till just the right moment, till all the troops are in. Horse and rider, chariot and all. And then down comes the staff. And collapsing comes the water. And it's a genocide. A genocide. A total annihilation of this army. Real men and women, maybe women, real men, with families and children they'll never go home to. How could a good God do that? Well, the question is not that. The question is, how has a good God not done that to all of us? Because what they were doing, fighting against God, is only what we're doing. It wasn't but a few days on the other side of the sea and the people of Israel are complaining. When we were back slaves again. They don't get it. We don't get it. So God really wasn't after killing Pharaoh's son. He really wasn't after throwing all these people into the Red Sea. What he is after is a prototypical, a picture demonstration of what really has to happen. That the evil of our rebellion against him must be destroyed. Must be. Because a good God can't let evil go on. He wouldn't be a good God anymore if he did. And so the right thing for God to do is to destroy all of us. And yet our good God is so good that he doesn't want to do that. He wants to save all of us. And so through history, he moves the seed of mankind. One lineage, from Adam and Eve to Noah to Abraham to David. He moves that seed with the promise that he's going to dive down into our midst and do what needs to be done. More on that in a moment. But see then, the crushing of the armies of Pharaoh and this horse and this rider thrown into the sea. This is, yes, people in history, people who didn't believe, people who made pagan sacrifices, people who were not good, just like you and me. But they are also a picture of sin, death, and the power of the devil, and what God himself intends to do to those things, to drown them in the sea. A lavish washing away of all evil. A regenerative, purifying, cleansing flood. Jesus of Nazareth, then, having been born, the fulfillment of all of these promises, and saying that every one of these stories you think is about how you're supposed to be a better person from the Old Testament. No, every one of these stories is about me and what I'm going to do for you. Having fulfilled that and walked that road, takes sin, death, and the devil to himself, to his flesh. You and I, when someone would slap us, we are not swift to turn the other cheek. Not at all. I guarantee you, if I walked up to you and just smacked you in the face, you would get angry. Jesus knows what we're going to do to him. He walks in and he lets us pull out his beard and spit in his face and lash his body to gory threads and shreds and put a crown of thorns so that it pierces deep into his head. And then take spikes, railroad spikes, nails, and staple them to a cross. Where then he dies. He dies with all of that evil, the horse and his rider, taken into himself. And he goes into that sea of seas, that great chaos of death that none of us are ready for, and none of us, if we're honest, really want to go to. He goes in taking the flesh of our sin with him, our subjection to the devil with him. And 3 days later, of his own accord, he, human, man, walks back out. But now there's no more sin. Now there's no more tyranny of the devil over this man. Now there's no more chaos controlling this man. Now he has triumphed. The sting is gone. The crown is taken from death's pale brow. Do you believe in miracles? It was the most public miracle in the history of the world. Over 500 people at one time saw this raised man. It is not without good reason that faithful Jews stopped worshiping on Saturday and were willingly kicked out of their own temple. This is a people group that are so unwilling to give up their religion that nothing can take it from them. And yet, that weekend, and then in the weeks and months that followed, thousands left. Why? Because of the eyewitness account. Because it happened. Because Jesus was there and they had no other explanation for it. Scars still in his hands and side and brow, yet perfect and alive. What does it mean? It means I am the Lord. It means I am the fulfillment of all things. It means I'm the new man, the new Adam. And oh, by the way, I didn't do this to destroy you. I did this to save you. So here's the thing. You want to walk out of death yourself? You must be united to me. This ever-living body, this non-dying humanity, this second race, the race of Adam, the race of Jesus. Well, dear Jesus, how do we get that done? How do we join with you? Go into all nations, washing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. And I am with you always. Oh, by the way, when you get together, take and eat this bread. It's my body. The same one that died on the cross, the same one that rose from the dead, the same one that is ascended into heaven right now, the same one that comes again to judge all things. Take and eat. Take and drink my blood, so that when I do come again to judge all things, the Lamb's blood will mark your door. Not the lintel of your home, but the doorposts of your body. So that on the day of judgment, death won't be able to keep you down. Because the resurrected man, joined with you physically, will pull you back out of the grave, leaving the sin behind. And you will indeed reign with him forever and ever and ever. It doesn't matter what denomination or church you call home. That's Christianity. That's what binds us. That's who we are. He is who we are. And these words about him are who we will be forever. He is risen.
He is risen indeed.
Hallelujah. Amen.